Okay, we're on. Hello, everyone. I am Sarah Bluvas, the Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Mercer Island. And this morning, I am joined by Emily Moon, who is a consultant working with the city on reset planning for recreation programs, the Mercer Island Community and Event Center, and our arts programming. We are recording this presentation this morning about arts reset planning because we originally intended to give this presentation live during the January 13th Arts Council meeting, but unfortunately we had to cancel that meeting due to the power outages across the island. So in preparation for a workshop coming up on January 28th with the Arts Council, we are recording this presentation without an audience, but it will be made available to both the Arts Council and the public once we're finished. Just to give background information and help kick off this portion of the reset planning, there will be other opportunities to learn more and to hear what the Arts Council is thinking and participating in with this project. But for now, we're going to do this kickoff, not live, just so everyone has the appropriate info to get this project rolling. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily.
Great, thank you, Sarah. I'm happy to be here, happy to be talking about the reset for recreation, arts, and the community center. Just a little way of background about who I am and who I'm working with. I'm a local government management consultant. Just as of recently, I was a city manager type prior to pandemic. And then my family took several months to go and travel the world before COVID made us come back before we had expected. But I'm really happy to be helping the city of Mercer Island with this very important project. I've been working with a great team appropriate to Arts Council. That has been Sarah, but there are other individuals in recreation and who have been instrumental in the activities of the Community and Events Center that I'm also working with. And the reason why we're working on a reset plan is because the pandemic caused us to have to shut down some of our facilities in the city and also had some budget impacts, staffing impacts. And so we're at that moment in time where we need to be thinking about how do we proceed after the pandemic? How do we get programs and services and facilities back up and available for the public? And that's why I'm not calling this a reset plan. I'm calling it a recovery plan because we don't envision that we're going to go back to exactly the way that it was before the pandemic. We don't have necessarily the same staff. We don't have the same budget. Community needs may have changed post-pandemic. And so it's just a very good opportunity for us to pause, think about what we want to be in the future. But we do need to recognize the realities on the ground as we get started. So this is a time for us to talk about how to prioritize, maybe how to improve background like policies, and then how to really think about getting better at performing our essential roles and responsibilities and how to take advantage of the assets of the community. So in the short term, we're working on plans that will enable us to be flexible, be responsive to how the pandemic changes over time, how our ability to interact with each other changes over time. And we're going to use this pause to really plan for the future. So as I've been working with the teams, I have been helping them develop kind of two stages. One is the immediate action plan, which is really highly dependent on the stage of the pandemic and the dynamics of it. And we're working on implementing that plan now. That plan will probably be in place for all of 2021 as the whole country works to make sure everyone is vaccinated and as things begin to reopen to general public. The second phase is a longer term action plan, and that plan is going to be designed for post-pandemic. And we can use our pause time right now to start to develop that plan. We expect that the work on that plan will be iterative, that we're going to learn as we go. We may try and test and pilot some things. We may then take a step back and redesign in some way and then start again. We also believe that we're going to have to phase it in over time, partly because all of the resources that we might want to have available to implement that longer term action plan may not be available on day one. And it may be something that we need to scale up to. So for the short term, staff and I have been working on a framework that will help us think about what is possible near term. We've been calling that the COVID framework. I'm not going to read this entire slide, but these are the principles that we're having to keep in mind as we think about what can we deliver near term. It's really important for this team to think about this because they, as individuals, have been tasked with some of these cities' emergency operations functions during the pandemic. They've taken on different roles than they had pre-pandemic, and our facilities are being used in different ways right now during the pandemic. So it is important for us to think about how do we still support the city's operations in response to the pandemic during this time, and yet perhaps start to deliver recreation, arts, community center programs and services that are still consistent with the current needs of the community. So this framework really talks about utilizing city resources to ensure the health and safety of the community. I wanted to give you an example of what we're doing on the recreation side of the house for the immediate action plan. And for us, that is going to be focused on what do we think we can deliver with our available staff right now. And there are about 2.75 full-time equivalents, employees that are working in recreation in the community center. And as I said, they're still tasked with other types of responsibilities. So we really wanted to come up with a plan that was truly actionable, given the resources. We know that summer camps are really popular in Mercer Island, that our families need that as a resource and value it. So that was a natural candidate. We're going to do summer camps a little bit differently than we've done in the past. In the past, we have both had in-house led camps where we've had to hire our own staff and really gear up to be able to meet community demand. And we have also hired contractors to lead additional summer camps. This coming summer, we are only going to bring on contractors to lead camps. That will help us stay focused and meet community need, but still allow staff to put some attention toward the long-term action plan. What does that mean for arts, though? For arts, it means that we want to focus on what is also consistent with the COVID framework, but what might we be able to get off the ground sooner rather than the longer term action plan. And we haven't formulated that yet. That's what we're going to be doing in January during the workshop. We have a workshop planned for the Arts Council on January 28th. And we're eager to hear your thoughts. I'm going to, in a few slides, talk about how we might frame that conversation and what goals we might have for the short-term or immediate action plan for arts. But we have not yet developed that plan. So some possible discussion topics for the workshop. There's a lot on this slide, and we will get to what we can during our conversation. We want to talk about what the current and near-term conditions are, what resources we have, whether that be staff or Arts Council member time, availability, the budgeted resources. And we want to have some conversation about what you think is needed in the community right now and what is needed by the city of Mercer Island with regard to arts. And maybe how has that changed because of the pandemic? We also want to have some conversation around the Arts Council existing mission and goals. You have some great governing documents and some great long-term plans. We want to talk about that relative to the current situation. And we want to talk about your areas of interest. A big portion of our conversation, as I mentioned earlier, will be focused on what are the essential functions and responsibilities of the Arts Council. If we were to start up some programs and services in the near future, what is fundamental? What must we do? So we're going to have a lot of conversation around that. There are some tasks, responsibilities that the Arts Council has that no one else in the community has, and we need to be very mindful of that. But we also want to be thinking bigger about the future. And so we want to consider what are the other things that we might want to do if we were to expand beyond the essential function. And we want to talk about the priorities for those things and what the criteria would be to expand, what resources might be needed, what community demand or other thresholds would be present. Then we want to talk about what's needed to get to work on the immediate action plan. What timetable would we have and what resources do we need to go and get in order to implement? And then if we have time, we will start to talk about what is the focus of the long-term reset plan and where do we go from here after the January workshop. So for the long-term reset plan, our main goal will be to think about how to help the city approach its arts goals in the most effective manner possible, how to be strategic about that, how to be focused on the right things. And so our long-term reset plan will really help to describe what it is we need to do in order to get there. Are there policies that we need to fix or change in some way? Do we need better clarity around those essential roles and responsibilities and what steps we need to take in order to deliver on those responsibilities? And then of course, start to spell out that expansion plan. This is our anticipated project schedule with arts in mind. I'm going to talk about the last step first. Our goal is to provide some recommendations to the City Council later this spring. That, to me, does feel aggressive. We're going to work fast and furiously just to get some advice their way. Why we're targeting spring is because that's a traditional time when City Councils come back together and talk about year-end revenue and expenditures, and then the first quarter too, and have some discussion about what those financial inputs tell us about available resources and about our likelihood to be able to carry out the work plan for that coming year. And so it's a time to then perhaps, we'll be hopeful about this, go and ask for additional resources if we need them to implement these reset plans. So in order to get there, what we're going to do with Arts Council is hold a couple of workshops. I've talked about the January workshop. We're anticipating holding another one sometime in February. I understand that the Arts Council is contemplating moving to an every other month meeting schedule, and that would mean the next regular meeting would be in March, perhaps. So we'll try to take advantage of a little time on that agenda to talk about the reset plan. And then if we need it, we may call a special meeting to just try to stitch together all of these great thoughts that you will be helping me to process, and make sure that we have something with some level of synthesis that we can give to City Council in the spring. But as I said, this is going to be a work product that we're going to be developing over the course of the year. And so I want us to work very diligently this winter and early spring to be ready for that April timeline. I know there are certainly action items that are going to come after that point. Lastly, I wanted to share that we're trying to get the word out about this project, this reset for recreation, the community center, and arts to the community through a variety of means. We're using all of the communication channels the city has available. Certainly would love your help in getting the word out about how people can get information and how they can perhaps get plugged in to this process. And all of these meetings, we will have public comment input opportunities. So that's one avenue. We do have some information about the reset. It's focused mostly on recreation right now on the city's website, but we're also using all social media, a variety of city council and city manager communication tools as well. And then we're anticipating an article in the Mercer Island Reporter very soon that helps spell out what this project is all about. So with that, I'm looking forward to being with you on the 28th and walking through our first workshop. Thank you for your time and attention, and let's go do some good work.
Thank you so much, Emily, for taking the
Yeah,
time to record this. And
sure.
any Arts Council members who might have any questions, or of course, public members who have questions leading up to the workshop next week or throughout this process, feel free to reach out to me, sarah.bluvis@mercerisland.gov. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on January 28th. Thank you.